A lot of people asked about my Vim setup, how I'm using it and what configuration I did. This is why in this video we will start from scratch and configure Vim editor exactly with my config line by line. And I already made 3 different videos about Vim. First of all, why I'm using Vim and not other editor and what pros and cons it has. Second was about Tmux, and the third was about plugins that I'm using. And I will link all these 3 videos in the description because they are more generic, and here we will focus just on the configuration of the editor from start to the end. Also here I must mention that Vim is not the best editor when you just started programming or when you need to finish your task really fast. If you're just a beginner, please download, for example, VS Code, use it and focus on learning programming language. It makes sense to spend time configuring Vim only when you want to improve your coding, your workflow, and when you already have lots of experience and some time to spend on learning and configuring Vim. So what I'm using at all? As I am on macOS, I am using Alacrity terminal. This is how it looks like. And as you can see, it is available on all operational systems, and the main point of it is that it is blazingly fast. It doesn't have anything inside, you don't have their tabs, splits, whatever. This is why it is fast. This is what I am using, and this is how it looks like. Inside my Alacrity, I have Tmux. What is a Tmux? It's a terminal multiplexer, which actually means it allows you to create tabs and splits. And the main question of students is typically why I can't download iTerm and use it like all normal people. It also has tabs and splits. The main point is that Tmux saves your session. What does it mean? Just imagine that here I opened my project and here I am inside README and I'm typing something. Then at some point I am just closing my Tmux session like this. So as you can see, I am not in a session at all and everything is closed. I am just typing T, which will bring back Tmux, and as you can see, I am directly in the same state like I was before, which actually means all tabs are there, also splits, and all projects are still running, and even my cursor in exactly the same place like it was previously. The main point of Tmux is that it saves session in memory and you can simply jump back to it. You don't have this inside iTerm. And Tmux plays really nicely with Alacrity because it brings tabs and splits to Alacrity console which don't have it. Now let's talk about Vim. I am not using plain Vim, I am using a Neovim, and this is a fork of Vim which is better developed and which has more features. Previously they didn't have lots of difference, but nowadays Neovim supports Lua as a programming language with which we can write plugins, and this is what you can see here. Lua plugins are easy to create just like VimScript plugin. But realistically, VimScript, this is a Vim language, was there previously, and it was much more difficult, especially for beginners, than Lua. Lua is an extremely simple language, and it is similar to JavaScript for me. This is why I am using Neovim inside my terminal. And you already saw how it is looking for me in all my videos. I have this editor, I can open any file. I'm sorry for interruption, but I just want to let you know that I have a membership here on the channel that you can join to support me. It will give you access to the new videos earlier, emojis and priority replies to your comments. Now let's jump back into the video and check some code inside. The main point is that now I want to remove everything. As you can see here, I am inside folder. So home.config.nvim. And as you can see here, these are all my files which are related to Neovim. And I just want to remove all of them. As you can see, I have 0 configuration. Now I just have plain Neovim installed on my machine. And when I open it, this is how it looks like. As you can see, completely empty, nothing is configured. And the first thing that we must do, we must create a file init.lua, which will be our entry point. This is by here, touch init.lua. And now I can open it with Neovim. If you just install Neovim on your machine, then you can write nvim in order to open it. I have an alias, so on my machine I can write just v for Vim instead of Neovim. This is the same. Now we need to open our file that we just created, so we can write here nvim and then our init.lua, and this is how it looks like. It is completely empty, and what we want to do, we want to require inside our folder where we will store all configuration. In our case here, I can write require, and then typically people are writing here some username. You can write here foo. I will write my username .core, and this single liner will require a Lua file from the Lua folder. What does it mean? Let's save and close. And now here we have just init Lua. We want to create here a new folder Lua because it will automatically load any configs from Lua file. So I can jump inside Lua folder, and here I want to create new folder with my username. Now I want to jump inside this username and create two directories. First of all, it will be core, and secondly, it will be plugins. So this is how it looks like. As you can see, this is my home directory. We have .config and nvim, and inside nvim we have a Lua folder. Inside it is my username, and here we have core folder and plugins folder. So let's jump out. And as you can see, this is init Lua and Lua. Now when we're opening this init Lua file, as you can see, we're getting an error that alpha core is not possible to open. This is totally fine because we didn't create a file inside this directory. So let's close it again and make cd inside our Lua, and here will be core. And inside core, we must create a new file, so touch init Lua, which actually means the idea is that inside the initial init Lua file, we are requiring init Lua file inside our core. And what we want to create inside core is not only init, but also the settings of Neovim and our key maps. This is why here let's write touch settings.lua and also touch key maps.lua. Now here I can open init Lua file, and as you can see, it is empty. We are inside core, and here now we can require the full path, and it will be our username, then core.keymaps, and then I can copy paste this line and change here key maps to settings, which actually means inside our core we have just two files, key maps and settings. Let's close this and now jump outside. And let's try to start it again. So I'm writing Neovim, and we don't have any errors at all because all our required files were successfully binded. Yes, they're completely empty, they don't do anything, but this is fine. Now let's open our init Lua again, which is our main file, and here after core I want to require lazy. And the main point is that we will use a plugin manager which is called Lazy Neovim. Here is a GitHub of this plugin, so you can check it later if you want to. Most importantly, we don't have this lazy file at all. So we must jump inside Lua and username. And as you can see here, we have core and plugins. But I also want to create here a file which is called lazy.lua. And this is exactly the file that we required inside our root. Now here, let's open this lazy Lua with Neovim. And here I copied lazy config. Realistically, this is exactly what you can find on installation page. Let's have a look. First of all, here what it does, it creates lazy nvim path, and it clones the whole lazy nvim from GitHub inside this path. And this other part is about requiring all our plugins. Here we're requiring lazy, and we're calling setup, and inside we're writing import username.plugins. And this is important because this is how all our plugins will be called. And here we have some configuration for lazy if we should notify about new updates, which actually means this is our main file to install all plugins. Most importantly, we don't need to import every single plugin. It will just import everything from this folder plugins. So let's close it. And as you can see near lazy Lua, we see this plugins folder. Now let's check if it was installed successfully. We can just write nvim, and as you can see here, we are getting an error, no specs found for module alpha.plugins, which actually means it is completely empty, but it tried to load something. This is why here I want to jump inside our plugins folder and create here our first plugin. I want to create a new file, which will be colors.lua, and let's open this file with Neovim. And again, we're getting here an error that it is not correct. This is completely fine. Now inside I want to import such configuration. We have here a return and an object, and actually this is a Lua code. And most importantly, this is the name of the repository on the GitHub, so we can directly open this link. As you can see, this is this username, and this is the Groovebox color scheme that I'm using, which actually means this line just installs this plugin. Now after this we can use priority, and actually there are lots of different options inside lazy when exactly we need to load this plugin. And after this we have a config function where inside we configure this plugin. Here we're using require Groovebox, which will require this plugin, and .setup will call the setup, and this is the single line that we need to set up the whole package. After this here we're writing vim cmd and inside color scheme Groovebox. What does it mean? We're using vim cmd in order to execute vim script inside Lua, because not all packages are migrated to Lua, and sometimes we just want to natively execute some vim script code. And vim script is still supported, but Lua has lots of benefits. So this line color scheme Groovebox will activate this color scheme, and this line is just my configuration, how it should highlight unused variables. Let's close now my editor and open Vim again. As you can see now, Groovebox theme is there. Most probably for you, you will see a lazy window. So here I can type lazy, and this is how window looks like. As I already have lots of different packages which are cached on my machine, you didn't see that window. But for you, if you just opened your Neovim, it must download this plugin with colors, and then you can simply reload Vim to make it working. And as you can see now, we have a Groovebox color theme, which is activated on my machine. Now here inside Neovim, I want to write explore to talk once again about our setup. So here inside we have init Lua, this is our main file, and we have a Lua folder. And this init Lua can read and require things from Lua folder. Typically inside Lua folder, you can create your username, or you can just skip it completely and throw files inside, it will work. And inside here we have our lazy Lua and core and plugins. Inside core we have just two files, key maps and settings, but in order to require them, we're requiring just init Lua, and then this stuff we're requiring inside it. Additionally, we have all plugins, we will throw them here. For now we have just a Groovebox inside our colors, and this lazy Lua is what is requiring these plugins. This is the whole structure, we will just add new and new stuff, but the whole structure will stay exactly the same. The next thing that I want to do is go through all my settings for Neovim. In order to do that, we must open with Neovim our Lua core, and here will be our settings Lua. As you can see, it is completely empty. And now here I pasted all settings that I have on my machine. And first of all here we're mapping our leader key to space, which actually means this is our main key to make keybinds, and space is most commonly used. Now here I have an option set highlight on search, which actually means your search in the file will be highlighted. Vim number shows you line numbers by default. Now here we have a mouse mode, which means mouse will be completely disabled, we don't need it. This line means that you can copy-paste stuff between your system keyboard, your Command C for example, and Vim itself. This means that your line will have reps. We don't need any swap files, and we don't want any backup. Here we have undo history, which means we can indefinitely undo our changes, and they are stored here inside .vim undo directory. Now here we have case insensitive search, which means we can write lowercase to find any case. We want to show sign columns on the left, which means this is an additional space, for example for Git symbols or LSP errors. Here we're decreasing update time of the Vim. By default the values are too high. This option will give you a better completion experience, and this will enable better colors. After this, I don't really want to see these modes like insert, visual, because I always know in which mode I am. This is why I'm disabling that. And here I want to open splits always on the right and below, never on the left, because it is confusing. All our files inside Vim will be auto-read when we are changing them outside of the Vim. This is extremely important. Now here is stuff regarding indentation. I want two spaces, smart tab, and so on. Here we're always using spaces and not tabs, and I want to wrap lines. I want line breaks, and I want to show line break. After this, I have a language map to support Russian symbols on the keyboard also. And here are some scrolling behavior, so how much lines we will scroll when we're jumping up and down. So this is the whole settings that I have, and I will link the whole config that we will do in the description box below. So you can simply copy-paste it if you want to. The next thing that we want to do is configure key maps. This is why let's open not the settings file, but a key maps file. I'm sorry for interruption, but I just want to let you know that I have lots of advanced courses on different web technologies where we create real applications and prepare for the interviews. You can find the link in the description box below. Now let's jump back into the video. And as you can see here, in total I have less than 40 lines of key maps because Vim has extensive amount of key maps and you don't really need to override lots of stuff. So let's have a look what I have. But first of all, you must understand how we're key mapping stuff. So we're writing Vim key map set, and inside we're providing several arguments. The first argument is in what modes this key map should work. In this case here, we're saying, okay, it should work in normal mode, so N, and visual mode. This is why V. For example, here it is only normal mode because here it is N. The second is what you want to use, and then what command must be executed. And after this, some options. For example, silent true means that we won't see any information regarding calling of this key map. In this case here, what we are doing, we are saying that in normal and visual modes, the space when we are clicking on it should not do anything. This is really nice because realistically we are using space as our leader key and we only type with the space inside insert mode. After this here I am using leader S, so space S, to save the file. This is why here in normal mode leader S calls write and enter. Here is a little bit more tricky part. We basically in normal mode use K and J in order to move lines correctly, because essentially we want to just move lines straight to the top or to the bottom and not like text is written. This is why here we have a check, which exactly command we want to use. Here we have a key map to go to the beginning of the line or to the end of the line. So to go to the beginning I have Shift H, and to go to the last symbol it is Shift L. Then here we have Shift Q in order to quit. It is nice to close Neovim or to close a buffer, for example. The next two are for splits. I am using VV in order to make a vertical split of the screen, and I am using SS to make a horizontal split. After we created our splits, we want to jump between them. This is why here is Ctrl J, Ctrl K, Ctrl H and Ctrl L, depending on the direction. So directions are exactly the same like J, K, H and L that we're using for navigation. Here is how we can intend with tab and shift tab in the visual mode, so you are selecting something, you are clicking tab and it will be intended. And here are some nice hotkeys to change where our cursor must be positioned after we copy and paste our text, because by default it is positioned at the same place where we were, not after the text that we pasted inside. And now here I have leader H in order to clear search highlight, which actually means I'm looking for something, then I can just hit leader H and it is cleaned. And the last one fixes pasting after visual selection. Now let's try to reopen our Neovim file. First of all, we need to open some file. I want to open exactly the same file that we just changed. It is keymaps.lua. And now let's check some keybinds. First of all, space S will save the current file. This is this command. After this, with K and J, we can go normally up and down. Now, if I want to jump to the first symbol, it is Shift H. To the last symbol here, it is Shift L. If I want to quit, it will be Shift Q, but I don't want to quit right now. And here are our splits, VV for a vertical split, and we have SS for a horizontal split. And now we can jump between splits with Ctrl G, Ctrl K, Ctrl H and Ctrl L. And now exactly I can use Shift Q in order to close the split. After this indentation in visual mode, we're selecting something, we're hitting Tab or Shift Tab. And here is how we're coming at the end of young text. If I'm pasting something, I'm at the end, not at the beginning. And here let's say that we're looking for keymap word. As you can see, it is highlighted because we configured it previously. And now I want to clear my highlight. I am just hitting space H. So all our hotkeys are working and we're good to go. The only thing that is left is going through all plugins that I have installed and show you what they are doing. This is why let's write here touch and create a new file inside Lua, plugins. And here, first of all, I want a plugin comment.lua. And actually the name can be anything here. Most importantly, it must be Lua. Now let's open this file. So plugins comment Lua. This is completely empty file. And as you can see here, we're getting an error because it is empty and we can't load it. I'm pasting here everything from my config, and what we're using here is a package comment.neovim, and here is an event. And this event means that it will be called when we're getting a new file or we're reading a buffer. Now here we have a dependency of this package. This is how we install dependencies. And here is the config where we're calling this comment and we're requiring its dependency, and then we're calling setup. So I'm using exactly this package in order to comment some stuff. This is why now we can close Neovim, open again. This package will be installed for you. For me, it is already installed because I have it cached. And now we can just comment out some lines and it is working just fine. The next package that I want to show you is Fuzzy Finder to find any files or any text that you need to. This is why here let's create a new file inside plugins and let's name it fuzzyfinder.lua and let's open it with Neovim. Now I will copy paste everything inside, and this is quite a lot of config. So first of all, here we're installing this package and we have here event very lazy, which means it will be initialized at the end, and here inside our function we have the whole setup of Fuzzy Finder. Here I am applying color scheme, then how my window can look like. You can find all this information inside official GitHub repository. I have some options for Fuzzy Finder, I have a key map and some config for files. And here I am setting some key maps, for example Ctrl+P in order to find a list of files, then leader B to open buffers, and here leader slash, so space slash, in order to find any text inside my folder. And last one here is GR in order to load references from LSP. We didn't configure LSP yet, but we will talk about it later. Now here I want to open with Neovim a React project so we can check how finding files is working. So here I want to write Neovim and it is opened, and now we can leverage these 3 keybinds that I have for the application. First of all is Ctrl+P, this is our Fuzzy Finder in order to find files. Let's say that we want to find our app component. I'm typing app, and as you can see we found our app file here in the list, and on the top we can see the preview of the file. I'm hitting enter and we're going inside. If we need some other file, I can type like CSS, and we're finding source weather CSS with all content inside. Additionally to that, I have buffers. So let's just try to open multiple files, and then I can hit space B. And what it does, it opens buffers, which means all opened files that I opened previously with Vim. And here I can easily switch between them and I see previews of these files. For example, I can select app.jsx and jump inside it. And the last thing that I'm using here from Fuzzy Finder is space slash, and here we have a fuzzy search so we can find some text. For example, we're looking for weather, and here we're finding all our occurrences of weather in all our files. And here we can just select any of them and we're good to go. And additionally to that, here we can click Ctrl+R in order to bring all files that we were looking for in this quick fix window, which actually means now here we can simply select any file and it will be loaded. This is extremely nice when you need to update lots of files after finding some stuff. The next plugin that I want to create is about showing indentation. This is why here let's name it indent.lua. And here let's open with Neovim this file that we just created. This is everything that I have here. First of all, this is the package. Here we're using this branch. We don't have any options. And here we're saying that we want to require this package with such configuration. so we don't want to show scope, but we want to use this character for indentation. Let's have a look. I need to reload Neovim, and these are these lines here to show the indentation inside file, which is really comfortable. The next package is a status line inside Neovim. In order to do that, we need to create a new file. Let's name it lua-line-neovim.lua, and now let's open it. And here I pasted the whole configuration. So again, we are using here a package lua-line. Here is a config file. I have here some default colors. This is just a variable colors, and I have here a theme. And essentially the idea is that this Lua line is split in different sections like A, B, C, and Z on the right. And what we want to do here, we can call a setup and provide some configuration. In my case, it is extremely simple. I want to hide everything, and I just want to show a modified status on the left, nothing else, and the file name afterwards. All other stuff is disabled. Let's have a look how it looks like. I'm reloading the package, and as you can see now here, this is this line. You can see here bluish color and the file name with a parent. Now here, if I'm changing something, it is red with cross to show that file is changed. If we are saving this file, it is blue again. I don't render here any additional information like git branch, LSP status, but you can do it if you really need to. The next package that I want to install is called nonetheless.lua, and I'm using it in order to bring Prettier support to my browser, because I want to call Prettier almost on all files when I'm saving them. And this is the whole configuration. Let's quickly go through that. First of all, here we want to activate it when we're opening the file. And here we're getting some stuff like formatting and diagnostics from this package. Most importantly, this is its setup, and here inside sources, we're saying what we want to format. So here we're formatting, first of all, with Prettier, everything except of Markdown and MD files. And here we're using not Prettier, but prettierd, which is a daemon, which means it should not run Prettier every single time. It simply used a daemon. Here we're using formatting Lua, so we can format Lua files. And here I also have ESLint, which is being called when we have files ESLinter.cgs. And here is a configuration to run it on save. And here on the top, we should not forget that we have a dependency, which is nvim Lua plenary nvim. But we can't really check that this package is working because we didn't really install Prettier or ESLint. And we're doing that with one additional package, which helps us to install linting, formatting tools, and also LSP tools. This is why here what we want to do, we want to call touch and create a new file, which is called mason.lua. Let's open it with Neovim and paste a configuration inside. So here we have a package Mason with dependencies of Mason LSP config and Mason tool installer. We're calling them all here, but most importantly, we're saying that we must install this stuff. What is this? This is our LSPs. What is LSP? This is language server protocol. This is this magical thing which calls your imports, which shows you errors inside your TypeScript, and so on. And here I am using TS Server, Angular LS, Lua for Lua files, HTML and CSS LS. So all this stuff will be automatically installed when we're opening Neovim the first time. And on the bottom here we're ensuring that we installed Prettier, Style Lua, ESLint D, so daemon, and Prettier D, which is also daemon. In this case we don't really need to install all this stuff on our own. Let's close Neovim and start again. And now probably for you the window Mason was opened. And it will install for you all these language services. You can see them here. And here we can click, for example, 4. And here I have ESLint D. And 5, it is Prettier, Prettier D, and Style Lua, which means Mason installs all these dependencies. And now we can use them in tools like, for example, nonetheless with Prettier. Which actually means now we can just change our file and then hit Command S, and our file is automatically prettified. We can also check this on the React project. I can just change this file however I want and then save, and everything is prettified correctly. After this, you probably want to install a file tree. This is why here let's create a file nvim tree.lua and let's open it. So I will paste my configuration. Let's go through it. First of all, here we have an Neovim tree package and its dependencies for LSP file operations, which means all your imports will be automatically updated when you move your file, for example. Now here we're calling setup, and here I want to change colors a little bit, and also here I have a function to reorder my folders. You don't really need this is some custom stuff. Here we're calling Neovim tree with setup. Here I am providing the width of this tree and some configuration, like for example which icons I want for the folders, what I want to show, and so on. Here are icons for diagnostics, and here are my key maps. So space EE must toggle the tree, space EF must toggle it and find a file that we're using now, then space ES can collapse the tree, and ER can refresh a tree. Let's check how it works. Now we can just call Neovim, and I can say space EE, and now here we see the file tree on the left. So this is our file Lua. We can open Lua, and then here we have our core and plugins. This is our whole structure that we created. And now we can use this tree to create new files. In order to create a new file inside plugins, I can hit A, and here we can name it. And we want to create here a plugin tree sitter.lua. And now here we can just click on it to open. And here is my configuration. So what is tree sitter? This is a plugin which is more of the core functionality for a lot of other plugins. It splits your whole file in different chunks, and it gives the possibility to all other plugins to manipulate these chunks. For example, it is really nice for your color scheme. Here we're activating it when we're reading a file. We're calling TS update, and here, as you can see inside setup, we're checking that all this stuff is installed, which actually means this is syntax highlighting for JavaScript, TypeScript, Vim doc, Lua, Ruby, Markdown, and so on. So you won't use this plugin directly, but you will use it a lot under the hood. For example, this is how my theme looks without tree sitter. As you can see, everything is white, red, and a little bit green. But now with tree sitter, it looks like this. So we have here yellow color, here we have an app which is greenish, and now GS6 is highlighted with orange. Now we must talk about three plugins together, because we're talking about LSP and autocomplete. This is why here I want inside plugins to create a new file, nvim-lsp config.lua, and inside I will paste my config. After this I want to create new file nvim-cmp.lua and paste inside my config. And the last one is nvim-autopairs.lua. And here is my config. So all these packages are tightly coupled. So what is this? Nvim LSP config is the configuration for LSP. What does it mean? This is the stuff to configure your imports, highlighting errors, refactoring tools like renaming of the properties, and so on, like for example inside TypeScript. Additionally to that, we are using Nvim CMP, which is an autocomplete for our code. And the last one here is Nvim autopairs, just for open and closed pairs inside our code. So you must understand how it all works together. First of all, we have Mason. I hope you remember Mason. It ensures that all these LSP configs are installed. These are our servers. If we don't have servers, nothing will work. After this, we have this Nvim LSP config. This is our client. Here we configure our client, so Neovim, how it will work with these servers. So what we're doing here inside Nvim LSP, first of all, we have a dependency to the CMP, which is autocomplete, and now here we're configuring it. These are just some settings. Most importantly here are key maps that we want to use when we're attached to our language server. Like for example on hover, we want to see some documentation. Then here we have a renaming across the whole application. We also have a code action hotkey with GF, like for example making an import. And leader D can show diagnostic for the line. And here GD makes go to definition. After this, we're configuring different servers. For example, here I'm configuring LSP TS server, HTML, Angular LS, Lua LS, and CSS LS. And additionally to that, we have our autocomplete, which is Nvim CMP. And it can autocomplete for us a buffer, a path, some snippets, and obviously our code. Here we have some hotkeys inside the autocomplete and what sources it must use. So here I opened an Angular application. Let's open our file tree, and inside source app, for example register, I want to look on register component yes. So what we are getting from LSP is, for example, this. I can hover with Shift K to see the documentation of this specific part. This is coming from TS Server LSP. For example, here we have inject and we can check what it does. Additionally to that, here, if I'm removing inject from here, we are getting this validation. As you can see, these red signs, and when I'm clicking leader D, it will show me cannot find name inject. I can hit here GF and I'm getting code actions, and here I can hit 1 in order to update the import and import our inject. So this is exactly what LSP does. Additionally to that, if we are typing here, for example, auth service from, here we have our path, which actually means we can easily find our file auth.service. And in the same way here, we can, for example, write constructor, we're getting a nice autocomplete. Then inside we can create a property foo of type string, and again you are getting an amazing autocomplete through LSP, just like, for example, in VS Code. Because actually it doesn't really matter that we're using Neovim, because LSP is working on the server, client simply renders what server does. And the last package here that we didn't check is Neovim autopairs, which simply closes for us and opened brackets. So here we're setting up our autopairs and we're good to go. I hope that it helps you to set up Neovim if you're looking to do that, but if you just want to find a job, you might want to improve your resume. And I already made a video where we're improving the resume of a real junior to a better level, and you can check it here.